The crystal chandeliers scattered shimmering patterns across the polished marble floors. Designer gowns flowed past gleaming shoes. This was the Hartford Museum's annual spring gala, a gathering of New York's elite, celebrating their affluence disguised as charitable giving. Amara Bennett, just 23, navigated through the throng. Dressed in a simple black uniform with a white apron, she was practically invisible, as servers often are. She held a tray with the effortless grace of someone who had been juggling 3 jobs since high school. Against the backdrop of her dark skin, a silver necklace shimmered in the light, a crescent moon intertwined with a compass rose. It was an old piece, weathered with age yet undeniably beautiful. A woman's sharp voice pierced through the gentle hum of the crowd. Isn't it rather inappropriate for the hired help to be wearing jewelry, especially something so ostentatious? Heads turned, and whispers spread like ripples in a pond. Amara's hand instinctively went to the necklace, the only tangible link to a past she couldn't recall. Then, everything seemed to freeze. Eleanor Whitmore, 81 years old, stood completely still. Her champagne glass slipped from her grasp and shattered on the floor. The color drained from her face as she stared intently at the necklace. Her lips moved, forming words she didn't speak aloud. Victoria. Have you ever considered, Victoria, what a single object could unlock? What secrets might be hidden in plain sight, waiting for the opportune moment to shatter everything you thought you knew? 3 days prior, Amara's apartment in the Bronx. 482 square feet of peeling paint and a window that wouldn't quite close, but it was hers. Nursing textbooks were stacked on every available surface. Anatomy, pharmacology, patient care finals were just 2 weeks away. Between double shifts at upscale catering events and relentless studying, sleep was a luxury she simply couldn't afford. On her makeshift desk lay a well-worn manila folder, containing her entire history. She opened it, revealing the same documents she had read countless times. A birth certificate, listing her as Baby Girl Bennett, a ward of the state. The date she was found, June 15, 2002. The location, Roosevelt Medical Center, New York. A single photograph of the necklace. Attached to it was a handwritten note. This was pinned to your blanket when they found you. I kept it safe. It was signed Mrs. Carter, Judith Carter, her foster mother from the ages of 12 to 16, the only person who had ever truly felt like family. She had passed away from cancer 7 years ago. Amara traced the compass rose with her finger. For directional points north, south, east, west, and beneath them, engraved in tiny script, May 29, 2002, 2 weeks before she was found abandoned. Her roommate, Tessa Rodriguez, appeared in the doorway. A fellow nursing student, her best friend, the sister she had chosen. You're doing it again, Tessa said gently. The necklace thing. Amara didn't look up. It means something, Tess. This engraving. This custom work. Expensive. Someone cared enough to have this made. Maybe your birth mom was rich and had a breakdown, Tessa suggested. Or maybe she was running from something. Amara closed the folder. Either way, I need to focus. Finals won't pass themselves. But the necklace remained around her neck. It always did. 21 years. She had never taken it off. Not once. 2 days prior. Prestige Events Catering. A cramped office filled with the aroma of coffee and the palpable tension of stress. Greg Polson, Amara's supervisor, waved her inside. He was in his mid-50s, perpetually exhausted, a veteran of 3 ex-wives, but generally a decent guy. Big event tomorrow night, he announced, sliding a file across his desk. Hartford Museum Spring Gala. Eleanor Whitmore is making some huge announcements, $500 million to children's charities. Amara recognized the name. Everyone did. Eleanor Whitmore of the legendary banking dynasty, widow of Charles Whitmore, known for her foundation work that had reshaped child welfare across 3 states. Childless, notoriously private, ruthlessly generous. We need reliable people, Greg emphasized, tapping the file. It's double pay. And the tips from these folks. He whistled. Could be a month's rent in one night. Amara did the mental calculations. Double pay would cover her next semester's books, and maybe even catch her up on the electricity bill. I'm in. Greg's expression turned serious. Professional attire only. No jewelry except for simple studs. These people notice everything. They judge everything. Amara's hand instinctively went to her necklace. No exceptions. Greg cut her off. I'm serious, Amara. One complaint and we lose the contract. She nodded, but her fingers remained wrapped around the silver crescent. She had never taken it off. Not for gym class, not for hospital clinicals, not for anyone. Tomorrow wouldn't be any different. Same time across Manhattan. The Whitmore estate. 15,000 square feet of history and grief. Eleanor Whitmore sat in her private study. Lawyers and financial advisors filled the room, preparing for tomorrow's announcement. The $500 million donation, the culmination of her life's work. But her attention kept drifting. Above the fireplace hung a portrait. A young woman with auburn hair and laughing eyes. Around her neck, a silver crescent moon necklace. Victoria Whitmore, 1980 to 2002. Her daughter, dead for 23 years. Patrick Hayes, Eleanor's personal assistant, noticed her distraction. 37, sharp, and fiercely loyal. He had been with her for a decade. Mrs. Whitmore, the speech revisions. Eleanor blinked, as if pulled from a trance. Victoria would be 45 now, she said softly, her voice distant. She would have loved this work, helping children. Patrick's expression softened. She'd be proud of you. Would she? Eleanor touched the compass rose brooch pinned to her lapel, which matched the necklace in the portrait. I couldn't save her. I couldn't even save her baby. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the story. The tragedy that had broken Eleanor Whitmore. Victoria, 7 months pregnant, in a car accident, brain dead by morning. The baby hadn't survived the emergency surgery. Eleanor had buried them both, mother and child. June 2002. The necklace had disappeared that night from Victoria's personal effects at Roosevelt Medical Center. Gone, despite private investigators, despite a $50,000 reward. Gone like her daughter, like her grandchild, gone. Patrick cleared his throat. The gala tomorrow is about moving forward. Is it? Eleanor looked at the portrait, at the necklace frozen in oil paint. Or is it about pretending the past doesn't haunt us? She had commissioned that necklace in Florence in May 2001. A mother-daughter trip, 2 matching pieces, 1 necklace for Victoria, 1 brooch for herself, both engraved with the date they were supposed to return to collect them. May 29, 2002. They had never made that trip. Victoria had died on June 12, 2002, 2 weeks after the engraving date. The necklace had been around her neck when the paramedics brought her in. By morning, it was gone. Eleanor had spent the past 23 years wondering who had taken it and why. Was it a simple theft or something darker? Tomorrow night, she would stand before New York's elite and talk about hope, about giving children a future. She would smile. She would inspire. She would pretend her heart wasn't a graveyard. Because that's what you do when you're Eleanor Whitmore. You survive. 2 women, 2 lives, 1 lost object. Tomorrow night, fate would force them into the same room, and nothing would ever be the same. The gala. Moments after the champagne glass shattered. Security moved swiftly. 2 men in black suits appeared beside Eleanor. Patrick rushed through the crowd, but Eleanor didn't move. Couldn't move. Her eyes remained locked on Amara, on the necklace. The ballroom fell silent. 500 of New York's wealthiest held their breath, watching a billionaire stare at a server. Eleanor's voice broke the silence. Barely a whisper, yet it carried. Where did you get that necklace? Amara's heart pounded in her chest. Every eye was on her, judging, assuming. She had been in this position before, always the outsider, always suspected. It's mine, she said, her voice steadier than she felt. I've had it since I was a baby. That's impossible, Eleanor said, taking a step forward, her hands trembling. I had that necklace made, custom in Florence. There's only one. The crowd murmured louder now. accusations floating in the air. Stolen. It must be stolen. A woman stepped forward, in her mid-40s, wearing a perfectly tailored dress and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Carolyn Whitmore, Eleanor's daughter-in-law, by marriage to her late nephew. Mother Eleanor, Carolyn said, her voice dripping with concern. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation. Her tone suggested there wasn't, but Eleanor ignored her, moving closer to Amara. Her eyes were desperate, hungry, seeing something no one else could see. May I? Eleanor's hand reached out, stopping inches from the necklace. Please. Amara wanted to run, to disappear as she had learned to do her whole life. But something in Eleanor's eyes stopped her. Not anger, not accusation, but grief. Raw, devastating, ancient. Amara nodded. Eleanor's fingers touched the silver, tracing the compass rose, finding the engraving on the back. Her breath caught. Eleanor's knees buckled. Patrick caught her. It's real, she whispered. Victoria's necklace. 20 minutes later. Private room off the main hall. Amara sat across from Eleanor. Patrick stood nearby. 2 others had joined them. Detective Raymond Costa, 62, NYPD, semi-retired but on the Whitmore family retainer, and Dr. Miriam Okafor, a family reunification specialist, a lawyer with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I'm not pressing charges. Eleanor spoke first, her voice direct. I need to understand how you have that necklace. Amara's hands gripped her knees. I was abandoned as an infant outside Roosevelt Medical Center on June 15, 2002. The necklace was pinned to my blanket. That's everything I know. The room temperature seemed to drop. Eleanor's face transformed, the color draining away, her hands shaking even harder. June 15th. Roosevelt Medical. According to my intake papers, yes, Amara confirmed. Patrick and Detective Costa exchanged glances. Costa spoke carefully. Mrs. Whitmore's daughter, Victoria, died on June 12, 2002, at Roosevelt Medical Center. Brain aneurysm following a car accident. The words hung in the air. Impossible, terrible, true. Dr. Okafor leaned forward. Miss Bennett, do you have medical records? Birth documentation? Just what the state gave me, Amara replied, pulling papers from her purse, always carrying them. Her entire identity in a folder. A generic birth certificate, no parent names, no history. Eleanor's hands shook as she removed her compass rose brooch and placed it on the table beside Amara's necklace. They were unmistakably matched, the same metalwork, the same patina, the same tiny maker's mark underneath. A.F. Fens, Alessandro Ferretti, Florence, the jeweler Eleanor had commissioned in 2001. Victoria was 7 months pregnant when she died. Eleanor's voice fractured. Broke? The doctors told me the baby didn't survive. Emergency C-section. Too much trauma. They showed me. They said it was over. Silence crashed through the room. Detective Costa cleared his throat. Mrs. Whitmore, if you're suggesting. I'm not suggesting. Eleanor's business voice surfaced, sharp and commanding. I'm stating facts. My daughter died at that hospital. 3 days later, a black infant was found abandoned at that same hospital, wearing my daughter's necklace. I want to know what happened. Amara's world tilted, spun. Are you saying I might be? I'm saying we need DNA tests, Eleanor said, her eyes meeting hers immediately. 4 hours later, a 24-hour medical lab in Manhattan. Cheek swabs, labels, chain of custody forms, expedited processing, the costs more than Amara made in a month. Eleanor paid without blinking. While they waited, Detective Costa opened his laptop, accessing 23 years of digital archives from Roosevelt Medical Center. June 12, 2002. Costa began reading aloud. Victoria Whitmore, admitted 11:47 p.m. Motor vehicle accident, severe head trauma, passenger side T-bone collision at intersection of. Eleanor's voice was tight, controlled. Skip the details. Emergency C-section performed at 1:23 a.m. due to fetal distress. Costa's frown deepened. Official record states infant female delivered stillborn at 1:51 a.m. Mother expired at 2:04 a.m. from cerebral hemorrhage. Eleanor closed her eyes, reliving the worst night of her life. Costa continued, June 15, 2002. Infant female found by maintenance worker Lewis Washington, 6:20 a.m. near the ER entrance. Estimated age 3 to 4 days. Preliminary exam showed good health, no distress. The baby had one distinguishing mark. He paused. Small strawberry birthmark. Left shoulder blade. Amara's breath caught in her throat. Eleanor noticed. What is it? Amara's voice was barely audible. I have a birthmark. Left shoulder blade. Strawberry-shaped. The room froze. Show me, Eleanor said. Standing up, Amara hesitated. This is insane. This can't be real. But she turned, lowering her collar enough to reveal the mark, small, reddish, shaped like an irregular heart. Eleanor's sob tore through the quiet. Victoria had the same mark, exactly the same location. Her father had it. Charles's mother documented it in all the family medical records, worried it was vascular. Patrick's face went pale. If the baby survived, why would they report her stillborn? Dr. Okafor's voice was grim, professional. Either catastrophic medical error, or someone deliberately falsified the records. Detective Costa finished. Eleanor stood, her grief transforming into something harder, colder, more dangerous. Find out who delivered that baby. Find out who signed the death certificate. Find out who was in that delivery room. Her voice could cut glass. And find out why my granddaughter was abandoned like garbage, while I buried an empty coffin. The next morning, DNA results arrived via secure email. Dr. Okafor opened the attachment. Her hands were steady, professional, but her eyes betrayed emotion. She read aloud, each word landing like a hammer. Probability of biological relationship between Eleanor Whitmore and Amara Bennett. She paused. The room erupted. Carolyn Whitmore, who had inserted herself into this meeting, went pale. That's impossible. I was there. I saw Eleanor at the funeral. You saw a funeral for my daughter. Eleanor's voice was still. No one showed me the baby. They said it would be too traumatic. Amara couldn't breathe, couldn't think. 23 years of foster homes, poverty, loneliness, questions no one could answer, all because of a lie. Why? Her voice broke. Why would someone do this? Patrick's expression darkened. Maybe we should ask who benefited from Victoria's death. All eyes turned to Carolyn. Her face flushed. How dare you? I wasn't even married to Thomas in 2002. But you were dating him. Patrick's voice was quiet, deadly. You were at the hospital that night. The temperature dropped further. Detective Costa opened a new file. Let's talk about the delivery room. Who was there? Who had access? Who signed what? These real-life stories remind us that sometimes the most touching stories are buried under decades of lies. And someone was willing to destroy a life to keep those lies hidden. Who falsified the hospital records? Why was Amara abandoned? What did Carolyn know? 72 hours after the DNA results, Eleanor's estate attorney, Margaret Shin, arrived with boxes, 23 years of financial records, estate documents, trust amendments, the paper trail of a fortune. She spread them across Eleanor's conference table. Detective Costa, Patrick, Dr. Okafor, Amara, Eleanor, and Carolyn were all present. Carolyn brought her own lawyer, Harrison Breenage, silver hair, expensive suit, a retainer that could fund a hospital wing. Margaret spoke like she was presenting evidence because she was. When Victoria died in 2002, her estate was structured with a clear hierarchy. She pointed to a document. If her child survived, the child inherited Victoria's share, approximately $1. $8 billion in today's valuation. Amara's stomach dropped. Billion with a B. With no surviving heir, Victoria's share reverted to the 1998 Trust Amendment. Margaret slid another page forward. The secondary beneficiary was Thomas Whitmore, Eleanor's nephew. Carolyn's face hardened. Thomas is dead. Pancreatic cancer, 2019. What does this have to do with anything? Patrick cut her off. Thomas managed Whitmore Industries from 2002 until his death. You've managed it since, and the foundation. Detective Costa pulled up financial records on his laptop. Let's talk about money. June 2002, Dr. Philip Grayson, administrator of Roosevelt Medical Center, received a $250,000 consulting fee. He turned the screen, showing the wire transfer from Whitmore Industries' legal department, approved by Thomas Whitmore. The room went silent. Eleanor's voice was ice. Thomas authorized $250,000 to the hospital administrator the same month my daughter died. It gets better. Costa clicked to another screen. June 2003, Grayson received $500,000 from a shell corporation, Clearwater Medical Consulting. Dissolved in 2004. Registered agent. He looked at Carolyn. Simon Vetch, your first cousin. Carolyn stood up. I'm calling my attorney. Sit down. Eleanor's command stopped her cold. You're not leaving until we understand what happened. Carolyn sat, but her lawyer leaned in, whispering urgently. Detective Costa continued. Hospital staff present at Victoria's delivery. Primary surgeon Dr. Alan Mercer, retired, living in Arizona. Surgical nurse Linda Hartwell, retired, in Vermont. Anesthesiologist Dr. Paul Rickman, deceased, 2007. He paused on the next name. Attending physician who signed the stillbirth certificate, Dr. Gerald Thornton. A photo appeared. A man in his 40s, white coat, confident smile. Thornton was terminated in 2003 for falsifying patient records. Unrelated case. Lost his medical license in 2005. Last known address, Jacksonville, Florida. Patrick leaned forward. Someone paid him. That's speculation. Breenage, Carolyn's lawyer, objected. You have no evidence. Then explain the money. Eleanor's voice cut like a blade. Explain why my nephew paid the hospital administrator. Explain why Carolyn's cousin's company paid him more. Carolyn's composure cracked. Thomas handled legal affairs. I don't know every transaction. You were there. Amara's voice surprised everyone, including herself. The night my mother died, you were there. I was Thomas's girlfriend. Of course I was there. And 3 days later, I was abandoned. Amara stood, facing Carolyn, wearing a necklace worth thousands. Why didn't whoever left me just sell it? Why keep it with me? Silence. Dr. Okafor spoke quietly. Because it was insurance. If the baby was ever found, the necklace was proof someone wanted the baby gone but couldn't bring themselves to. She didn't finish, didn't need to. That afternoon, Detective Costa made calls. Linda Hartwell, the surgical nurse, 71 now, agreed to a video call. Her face appeared on the screen. Weathered, tired, guilty. I wondered when someone would come asking. Her voice shook. 23 years. I've had nightmares, every single one. Eleanor leaned toward the screen. Tell us what happened. Linda took a breath. The baby didn't die. She was perfect, crying, pink, healthy. 7 pounds, 2 ounces. Amara's hand covered her mouth. But Dr. Thornton, he took her out of the delivery room, told us to document a stillbirth. I tried to object. He said it was complicated. Family request. Family request? Eleanor's voice was sharp. That's what he said. I thought maybe. I don't know what I thought, but I was young, scared. He was the attending. Costa spoke gently. What happened next? 3 days later, I was leaving my shift. Saw Dr. Thornton in the parking garage, level B. He was with someone, a woman, dark hair, red coat. They were arguing. Patrick stiffened. Did you see her face? No, but I saw him hand her something wrapped in a hospital blanket. I didn't realize until years later what I had witnessed. Why didn't you report it? Dr. Okafor asked. Linda's face crumpled. I tried. Went to Dr. Grayson, the administrator. He told me I was mistaken, traumatized from the delivery. Then I started getting letters. What kind of letters? No return address. Typed. Said my family would be hurt if I talked. Said my daughter. She was 8. Then they knew her school. Sent me pictures of her playground. Eleanor closed her eyes. So I kept quiet. Got a transfer to a different hospital. I tried to forget. Linda wiped tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Amara couldn't speak, couldn't process. They threw her away, threatened a woman into silence, all for money. Detective Costa paused the recording. Linda, the woman you saw, the red coat. Can you describe anything else? Expensive, designer. Burberry, maybe. And she was tall, confident, moved like someone used to giving orders. Patrick's face went white. Carolyn had a red Burberry coat, 2002. I remember because Thomas bought it for her, Christmas 2001. All eyes turned to Carolyn. She was pale, shaking. Thousands of women own red coats. This is absurd. You're building a conspiracy from. Then take a polygraph. Eleanor's voice was cold, merciless. If you have nothing to hide. I don't have to prove my innocence. Actually, Breenage said quietly, given the evidence, you might want to cooperate. Even her own lawyer saw it. That night, in Eleanor's study, Amara sat by the window, looking at the city lights, trying to process that she was a billionaire's granddaughter, that her entire life was a lie, that people had destroyed her for money. Eleanor entered with tea, sat beside her. I don't know how to be a family. Amara's voice was small. I don't know how to be your granddaughter. I don't know how to be a grandmother. Eleanor's honesty was gentle. But we'll learn together. They threw me away. Amara's voice broke. Like I was garbage. No. Eleanor took her hand. They stole you. They're not the same thing. You were wanted desperately. I just didn't know you existed. Amara looked at her, at this woman who was a stranger, who was her grandmother, who had lost 23 years. What if we can't prove it? What if they get away with it? Eleanor's eyes hardened. They won't. I promise you that. A knock on the door. Patrick entered, his face grim. Detective Costa found Dr. Thornton in Florida. He's willing to talk. Eleanor stood. Then we go to Florida. There's something else. Patrick hesitated. Keith Mollery, private security contractor. He's been asking questions about Amara, following her. Who hired him? Whitmore Industries Security Division. Approval code traces to Carolyn. These real-life stories teach us that when the powerful feel threatened, they don't just hide the truth, they hunt it. And Amara just became the target. Jacksonville, Florida. 2 days later, Detective Costa and Patrick stood outside a rundown apartment complex. Peeling paint, broken railings, the smell of desperation. Dr. Gerald Thornton lives here now. 3rd floor, Unit 312. Costa knocked once, twice. Footsteps shuffled inside. The door opened. A man appeared, 67, but looking 80, hollow eyes, shaking hands, the ghost of the confident doctor from the photo. Dr. Thornton? Costa showed his badge. Thornton's face drained. I knew someone would come eventually. He didn't ask why they were there. He already knew. Inside the apartment, Thornton sat on a stained couch, hands wrapped around a coffee mug, unable to stop shaking. I can't talk about that night. They'll kill me. Who will kill you? Patrick asked. I don't know. That's the point. Thornton's voice cracked. I've been running for 20 years, changing addresses, using cash. They still find me. Costa leaned forward. Tell us what happened. June 12, 2002. Thornton closed his eyes. I was paid $100,000 cash, delivered to a P.O. box in 3 installments. Paid to do what? Falsify the stillbirth certificate. Take the baby to a specific location. Leave her there. The words landed like stones. Where? Patrick's voice was tight. Maintenance closet. Near the loading dock. Level B. I was told someone would pick her up, take her to a good family, adoption, private, no paperwork. You believed that? Thornton's laugh was bitter. I wanted to believe it. $100,000 pays a lot of gambling debts. So I documented a stillbirth, took the baby, left her in that closet, wrapped in a hospital blanket with the necklace. It was around the mother's neck when she died. I thought, I don't know, maybe the baby should have something from her. Costa's jaw tightened. What happened next? I left. Came back an hour later to check. The baby was gone. I thought everything went according to plan. Thornton's voice dropped. But 3 days later, I saw the news. Abandoned baby found at Roosevelt Medical. I realized whoever was supposed to pick her up didn't. They just moved her to the ER entrance and left her. Patrick stood pacing. Who contacted you? Who set this up? I never met them directly. Everything was phone calls, burner phones, instructions delivered by text, money in cash drops. You must have heard something. A name, a voice. Thornton hesitated. There was one voicemail, left by mistake. A woman's voice. She said, "Tell Grayson it's done." Then she hung up, realized her error, called back immediately and said, "Forget that message. Can you describe the voice?" Educated, cold, used to giving orders. And, he paused. She had a slight accent, not strong but European maybe, or someone who'd lived abroad. Costa and Patrick exchanged looks. After that night, the threats started. Thornton continued. Letters, photos of my daughter at school, her route home. I moved to Florida, changed my... They even found me even after my name wasn't on any lease documents and I'd stopped practicing medicine. He hiked up his shirt, revealing a jagged scar bisecting his ribs. 2 years back, in a grocery store parking lot, a guy with a knife told me that if I ever talked, the next time would be fatal. Back in New York at Eleanor's estate, Amara was wide awake at 3 a.m. Unable to sleep in the guest house where Eleanor had insisted she stay, with 24-hour security outside. Her phone vibrated. A text from Tessa. You okay? Saw the news. This is insane. The media had sniffed it out naturally. Nothing remained hidden for long in New York. Headlines blared. Whitmore heir found after 23 years. Baby Amara. Stolen or abandoned. Billionaire's lost granddaughter raised in foster care. Amara couldn't formulate a response, the words failing her. Then another text arrived from an unknown number. Stop asking questions. You survived once. Don't test your luck. A chill ran through her. She screenshotted the message and forwarded it to Detective Costa. But fear had already taken root in her chest, cold as ice. Someone was watching her. The following morning, the team convened in Eleanor's conference room. Eleanor, Amara, Patrick, Detective Costa, Margaret Shin, and Dr. Okafor. Costa relayed Thornton's testimony, and the room listened in grim silence, absorbing the details of the voicemail. Margaret spoke. A woman's voice. European accent. That's pretty specific. Patrick pulled up some files. Carolyn Whitmore, born Carolyn Dupont. Her father was French-American, her mother Swiss. Carolyn spent summers in Geneva as a kid. She has a slight accent that comes out when she's tired or angry. Eleanor's face hardened. Circumstantial. We need something more concrete. I'm working on it, Costa said, opening his laptop. Dr. Philip Grayson, the hospital administrator. Current address, Miami. I've got a warrant being processed. How long? Eleanor pressed. 48 hours. Too long. Eleanor snapped, standing up. I want answers and I want them now. Patrick hesitated. There's something else. I've been digging into Thomas's finances from 2002. He made several large cash withdrawals between May and June, totaling $850,000. $100,000 to Thornton, $250,000 to Grayson, Margaret said, doing the math. That leaves $500,000 unaccounted for, or already paid to someone else. Dr. Okafor posed the obvious question. Who? That afternoon, Amara returned to her Bronx apartment, needing clothes, textbooks, her old life before everything had imploded. She'd declined security's offer to accompany her. I needed some space, she told them, a decision she immediately regretted. She climbed the stairs to her third-floor walk-up. The hallway light was out again, as usual. The landlord never fixed a thing. Her key turned in the lock, and the door swung open into the dark apartment. She reached for the light switch, but a hand grabbed her from behind, slamming her against the wall. A man's voice, low and menacing, whispered, "You need to stop asking questions." Amara's nursing instincts took over. She quickly identified pressure points and weak spots. Her elbow shot back, connecting with his ribs. He grunted, his grip loosening. She spun around, catching a glimpse of his face. Mid-40s, a scar slashed across his left eyebrow, dead eyes. He flicked open a knife. They said to make it look like a robbery. Amara's heart pounded in her chest. She was 3 feet from the door, 10 feet from the stairs. He lunged. She dropped to the floor and rolled, his knife slamming into the wall where she'd been standing. She bolted down the stairs, his heavy footsteps pounding behind her, getting closer. 2nd floor. 1st floor. The lobby. She burst out onto the street, screaming at the top of her lungs. People turned, their faces a mixture of shock and concern. The attacker stopped at the doorway, saw the witnesses, and vanished back inside. Amara collapsed on the sidewalk, trembling uncontrollably. A woman called 911. 2 hours later, at the police station, Detective Costa reviewed the security footage. The camera had captured the attacker entering Amara's building. Facial recognition software identified him as Keith Mollery. Costa pulled up his file. Private security contractor. Works for corporate intimidation firms. Specialty: making problems disappear. Who hired him? Eleanor demanded. She'd arrived within minutes of hearing about the attack. Whitmore Industries Security Division. Payment authorized 3 days ago. Patrick pulled up the approval code. His face went pale. Carolyn's digital signature. Eleanor's rage was quiet, controlled, deadly. Arrest her. Now. We're working on it, Costa said. But Mollery had disappeared, making it harder to prove anything. His phone rang. He answered, listened, his expression changing. Keith Mollery was found dead in his apartment an hour ago. Single gunshot. Apparent suicide. The room fell silent. That's not suicide, Patrick said, voicing what everyone was thinking. That's tying up loose ends. Amara sat in the corner, trying to process everything. Someone had tried to kill her, then killed her would-be killer to cover their tracks. Eleanor sat beside her and took her hand. You're staying at the estate. No arguments. Amara didn't argue. She couldn't. That night, Detective Costa's phone rang. Unknown number. Detective Costa, he answered. A man's voice, old and weak, responded. My name is Father Michael Reyes. I'm a priest. I'm in hospice care at Mount Sinai. I've been following the Whitmore case in the news. How can I help you, Father? Costa asked. Is what I can help you with. The priest coughed. I'm dying. Heart failure. Weeks left, maybe days. I need to speak with Mrs. Whitmore. It's about Thomas, her nephew. Costa sat up straighter. What about Thomas? He came to confession in 2019, days before he died. He was tormented, couldn't find peace. Father, the seal of confession. Thomas asked me to break it if the truth ever came out. He gave me written permission, signed and notarized. The priest's breathing was labored. He told me what he did. All of it. But he wasn't the one who planned it. Costa's pulse quickened. Who planned it? Someone Victoria trusted. Someone she loved like a sister. The priest paused. He gave me a name. Dr. Naomi Carter. The world seemed to stop. Victoria's best friend. Costa could barely speak. Thomas said she came to him in May 2002. Told him the baby would ruin both their lives. Told him they could make it disappear. She had connections at the hospital. She had a plan. Costa stood and began pacing. Why would Naomi Carter want Victoria's baby gone? Money? Debts? Desperation. Father Reyes coughed again, harder this time. Thomas said Naomi was the one who arranged everything, paid everyone, threatened everyone. He just provided the money and looked the other way. Sometimes the touching stories we hear about friendship hide the darkest betrayals, because the people closest to us know exactly how to destroy us. The name dropped like a bomb. Dr. Naomi Carter, Victoria's best friend, maid of honor at her wedding. The woman who'd held Eleanor's hand at the funeral. Detective Costa pulled up her files. Within minutes, her life story was spread across his screen. Naomi Carter, now 46, a psychiatrist with a private practice on Manhattan's Upper East Side, successful, wealthy, respected. But 2002 told a different story. Columbia University roommates Victoria and Naomi, 1998 to 2002, inseparable. Every photo showed them laughing, arms linked, sisters by choice, until money destroyed everything. Costa dug deeper. January 2001. Naomi married Marcus Carter, a hedge fund manager worth $4 million. March 2001. Marcus filed for divorce citing infidelity, his own infidelity. New girlfriend, Patricia Lowe, 26, former assistant. The divorce was brutal. Marcus's lawyers argued Naomi had contributed nothing to his wealth. A prenuptial agreement gave her a minimal settlement, $200,000. That was it. Naomi fought back. Victoria testified as a character witness, speaking about Naomi's support during Marcus's business ventures and her sacrifices. It didn't matter. The judge sided with Marcus. January 2002. The divorce was finalized. Naomi got $200,000 and crushing legal debt. But here's where it got interesting. April 2002, 2 months before Victoria died. Victoria co-signed a loan for Naomi, $2 million, using Whitmore Foundation funds as collateral. Eleanor never knew. She forged my signature. Eleanor's voice shook with rage. That loan was never authorized. Margaret Shin confirmed it. If Victoria died and her heir was eliminated, the loan would be written off as a state loss. Naomi keeps the money. No one asks questions. Patrick pulled up more records. June 26, 2002, Marcus Carter died in a boating accident in the Hamptons. The investigation ruled it accidental. He was drinking, fell overboard, and drowned. 2 weeks after Victoria died. Dr. Okafor noted, Patricia Lowe contested the will. Marcus promised to change it, but without proof and with Naomi as the previous beneficiary, the courts awarded Naomi the full estate through a legal loophole. Costa did the math. $45 million from Marcus, $2 million from Victoria, all within 1 month. And all she needed was for Victoria and the baby to disappear. Amara's voice was hollow. The pieces fit. Perfect. Terrible. True. Detective Costa made a call. Dr. Naomi Carter, this is Detective Raymond Costa, NYPD. I'd like to ask you some questions about Victoria Whitmore. Silence on the line. Then, I heard about Amara. It's wonderful. Eleanor must be overjoyed. Her voice was smooth, practiced, but there was something underneath it. Fear. Would you be willing to come to the station and clear up some timeline questions? Of course, though I'm not sure how I can help. That was 23 years ago. You remember it well enough. Another pause. Victoria was my best friend. You don't forget losing someone like that. No, you don't. Costa's voice hardened. They arranged a meeting for the next day at 2 p.m. Naomi agreed too easily, like she'd been expecting the call. That night, Eleanor couldn't sleep. She sat in her study, looking at photos of Victoria and Naomi. Birthday parties, graduations, holidays. In every photo, Naomi was smiling, perfect teeth, perfect hair, a perfect mask. How had Eleanor missed it? The envy, the resentment, the rage hiding behind friendship. Patrick entered quietly. You couldn't have known. I should have. I'm supposed to protect my family. She fooled everyone, even Victoria. Eleanor touched a photo. Victoria was laughing, Naomi beside her, arms around each other. She murdered my daughter, stole my grandchild, and I invited her to the funeral. Patrick had no response. Some betrayals were too deep for words. The next day at 1:45 p.m. Dr. Naomi Carter arrived at the police station 15 minutes early, in a designer suit, carrying a Hermes bag, with her lawyer in tow. Douglas Wainwright, expensive and ruthless. She saw Eleanor in the conference room. Her mask slipped for half a second, then reconstructed itself. Eleanor, it's been too long. She moved to embrace her. Eleanor stepped back. Don't. Naomi's smile faltered. She sat way right beside her. Detective Costa, Patrick, Dr. Okafor, and Margaret Shin filled the room. Recording equipment was running. Dr. Carter, thank you for coming, Costa began. We're investigating the events surrounding Victoria Whitmore's death, specifically the disappearance of her baby. I thought the baby died. Naomi's voice was careful. The baby is alive, sitting right there. Costa gestured toward Amara. Naomi looked. Her face didn't change, but her hands gripped her bag tighter. How wonderful. You must be thrilled, Eleanor. Eleanor said nothing, just stared, dissecting. Costa continued. We have testimony placing you at Roosevelt Medical Center the night Victoria died. Of course, I was there. Victoria was my best friend. We have financial records showing Victoria co-signed a $2 million loan for you in April 2002. Naomi didn't blink. Victoria was generous. She helped me through a difficult divorce. We have phone records. Costa slid papers across the table. 17 calls between you and Dr. Philip Grayson in the week before Victoria died. Why were you calling the hospital administrator? I don't recall. That was 23 years ago. We have testimony from Dr. Gerald Thornton. He says a woman with a European accent gave instructions to falsify the stillbirth certificate. Naomi's lawyer leaned in. My client doesn't have to respond to hearsay. We have a voicemail. Costa played it. The audio was old and scratchy, but clear enough. A woman's voice. Tell Grayson it's done. Naomi's face remained neutral, but a vein pulsed in her neck. That could be anyone. We have witness testimony. Costa pressed on. Linda Hartwell, a surgical nurse, saw Dr. Thornton hand a blanket-wrapped bundle to a woman in a red coat in the parking garage. Level B, June 15, 2002. Thousands of women own red coats. We have testimony from Thomas Whitmore, given to Father Michael Reyes on his deathbed. Costa played the recording. Father Reyes's voice, weak but clear, filled the room. Thomas confessed everything. He said Naomi Carter came to him in May 2002, told him Victoria's baby would ruin both their lives. She had a plan, contacts at the hospital. All Thomas had to do was provide money and stay quiet. The room went silent. Naomi's mask cracked just slightly. Thomas was dying, delirious. This is inadmissible. Actually, Margaret Shin said. Thomas signed a notarized statement giving Father Reyes permission to break the seal of confession if the truth emerged. It's admissible. Wainwright whispered urgently to Naomi. She shook her head. Costa leaned forward. Your ex-husband, Marcus, died 2 weeks after Victoria in a boating accident. We reopened that investigation and found a witness, a boat mechanic named Carl Jennings. He was paid $50,000 to tamper with the safety equipment. He slid a photo across the table, Jennings signing a sworn statement. He identified you as the woman who hired him. Naomi's breathing quickened. This is a setup. You're trying to frame me because you need someone to blame. We have bank records. Patrick spoke now. 3 cash withdrawals from your account in May 2002, totaling $150,000. The same week Thornton and Grayson were paid. Circumstantial. We have a motive. Eleanor finally spoke, her voice like ice. You were drowning in debt. Victoria had everything you wanted, and her baby stood between you and $45 million. Naomi's eyes flashed with rage, pure and unfiltered. You have nothing but speculation and coincidence. We have enough to arrest you. Detective Costa stood. Dr. Naomi Carter, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit kidnapping, fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder. Wainwright shot to his feet. This is outrageous. You'll be hearing from. But something broke in Naomi. 23 years of pretending, of hiding, of fear, is shattered. She stood and pushed Wainwright aside. You want the truth? Her voice rose. Fine. Yes, I did it. All of it. Wainwright grabbed her arm. Naomi, stop talking. She shook him off. Victoria had everything. Her composure exploded. Money, family, love, and she was going to waste it playing Mother Teresa. That baby would have inherited billions while I had nothing. Eleanor stood, her hands shaking with rage. So yes, Naomi was screaming now. I convinced Thomas to help me. Yes, I paid Grayson and Thornton. Yes, I told them to abandon the baby because I couldn't risk her growing up and asking questions. Amara couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was hearing. And yes, I had Marcus killed. He owed me that money after what he did, after he humiliated me, after he threw me away for some 26-year-old. Wainwright looked like he wanted to disappear. You want to know the worst part? Naomi laughed, bitter and broken. I'm not sorry. Victoria was naive. Thomas was weak. They both deserved what happened. She looked at Amara, her eyes cold. You survived. You're fine. You're about to inherit billions, so what's the problem? The room was silent, stunned. Eleanor stepped forward, her voice quiet and devastating. The problem, Naomi, is you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, knowing all your scheming achieved nothing but your own destruction. Security entered and handcuffed Naomi. As they led her away, she was still screaming, Victoria didn't deserve that fortune. She was going to waste it. I was smarter. I deserved it. The door closed, and silence crashed down. Amara realized she was crying. Eleanor's arm wrapped around her. These are the black stories that remind us evil doesn't always wear a mask. Sometimes it wears the face of a friend. 3 days later, at the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse, the media circus was deafening. Cameras flashed. Protesters held signs demanding justice for Amara and questioning how many other children had been stolen. Eleanor and Amara arrived, surrounded by security. Inside, the courtroom was packed, standing room only. Dr. Naomi Carter sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, with no makeup. The mask was completely gone. Douglas Wainwright sat beside her, looking like he'd aged 10 years. Carolyn Whitmore sat separately with her own legal team, facing accessory charges and conspiracy. Judge Ramona Torres entered, 64 years old, 2 decades on the bench and zero tolerance for games. All rise. Assistant District Attorney James Wu stood. Your Honor, the people will demonstrate that Dr. Naomi Carter orchestrated a conspiracy spanning 23 years, involving kidnapping, fraud, and murder. He laid out the case, presenting the DNA evidence, financial records, and witness testimony. Linda Hartwell took the stand first, 71 years old, nervous but determined. The baby didn't die. She was healthy, crying, perfect. Wu guided her. What happened next? Dr. Thornton took her and told us to document a stillbirth. Said it was a family request. What did you witness 3 days later? I saw Dr. Thornton in the parking garage with a woman, dark hair, red coat, expensive. He handed her something wrapped in a blanket. Wu showed her a photo of Naomi Carter from 2002. Could this be the woman? The build matches, the height, the confidence. Wainwright cross-examined, trying to poke holes in her testimony, but Linda didn't budge. Dr. Gerald Thornton testified next, granted immunity, looking broken. I falsified the stillbirth certificate and was paid $100,000. Instructions came through burner phones and cash drops. Did you ever hear a name? No, but I heard a voicemail. A woman said, "Tell Grayson it's done." Describe the voice. Educated, cold, with a slight European accent. Wu played the recording, then submitted a voice analysis, showing a 92% match with Dr. Carter's voice. The courtroom murmured. Carl Jennings, the boat mechanic, testified, burdened by a guilty conscience. She paid me $50,000 to tamper with Marcus Carter's boat, the safety equipment, to make it look accidental. Who paid you? Dr. Naomi Carter. I met her at a marina, and she told me exactly what to do. Wu showed surveillance footage of Jennings meeting Naomi in May 2002. It's her. No question. Father Michael Reyes appeared via video link from his hospice bed, hooked up to an oxygen tube with weeks left to live. Thomas Whitmore confessed in June 2019, days before he died. What did he confess about the baby? How Naomi Carter convinced him it was necessary, that the baby would destroy their inheritances. Who orchestrated it? Naomi, All of it. She had hospital connections and arranged the payments. Thomas just provided the money. Wainwright objected, but Wu submitted Thomas's notarized permission. Judge Torres allowed it. Amara took the stand. The courtroom went silent. Wu approached her gently. Miss Bennett, tell the court about your childhood. 7 foster homes before I aged out at 18. Some good, most weren't. Did you have family support? I had no one. No records, no history, just a necklace and questions. How did you survive? 2 jobs in high school, 3 in college, scholarships, loans. I worked every day to become a nurse. What did you think about your biological family? Amara's voice cracked. I thought they didn't want me. I thought I wasn't worth keeping. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. Now you know the truth. Now I know I was wanted. But someone decided my life was worth less than money. She looked at Naomi. You stole 23 years from my grandmother, condemned me to poverty, and killed people for money. Naomi stared back, showing no remorse. Wainwright cross-examined. You stand to inherit billions. I don't care about money. I care about my grandmother, the life we lost, the mother I never knew. Amara leaned forward. Money doesn't fix that. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. Naomi's final outburst came as Wu rested his case. She stood and pushed Wainwright away. You all act so righteous, but you do the same. Judge Torres banged her gavel. Dr. Carter, sit down. No, I worked for everything. Victoria had it handed to her. She didn't deserve it. Sit down, or I'll hold you in contempt. I'm already going to prison. Naomi laughed bitterly. My only mistake was not destroying that necklace. Security moved toward her. Victoria was weak, Thomas was weak, and that baby, she pointed at Amara, should have stayed lost. Security restrained her and dragged her back. She was still screaming. Judge Torres's face was stone. I've heard enough. She reviewed the evidence, the testimony, and the confession. Dr. Naomi Carter, I find probable cause on all charges. How do you plead? Naomi cut off her lawyer. Guilty to everything. The courtroom exploded. Judge Torres's voice cut through the chaos. Dr. Carter, you destroyed lives, murdered 2 people, stole a child's identity, corrupted professionals, and threatened witnesses. She paused. I sentence you to life in prison without parole, with all sentences consecutive, plus civil liability. Naomi didn't react, her face empty. Carolyn Whitmore, 30 years. Parole after 20. Dr. Philip Grayson, 15 years. Dr. Gerald Thornton, 10 years. License permanently revoked. As they were led away, Eleanor reached for Amara's hand. Justice is served. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Eleanor made a brief statement. My granddaughter was stolen 23 years ago by people I trusted. Today, justice affirmed that cruelty will not go unpunished. We ask for privacy as we heal. Amara spoke quietly to every foster child wondering if they mattered. You do. Your story matters. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. The crowd erupted in support. They walked to the car, hand in hand, grandmother and granddaughter. The past couldn't be changed, but the future was theirs to write. In touching stories like these, justice doesn't erase the pain, but it proves that truth always finds its way home. 6 months later, Amara walked through the Whitmore estate gardens. Morning sun filtered through the oak trees, birds singing. A sense of peace she'd never known existed. She lived in the guest house now, a compromise. Eleanor wanted her in the main house, but Amara needed space and independence. They were learning slowly. Eleanor wanted to give her everything. Clothes, cars, vacations. To make up for 23 lost years in 6 months. Amara wanted to earn her own way, finish what she'd started, and prove she was more than just a lost child. They clashed often, but they were trying. The previous week was Amara's nursing school graduation. Eleanor sat in the audience, front row, tears streaming down her face as Amara crossed the stage. Her degree was earned through her own work, her own sacrifice, not family connections, not money, but through her own hands. Afterward, Eleanor hugged her and whispered, Victoria would be so proud. Amara held on tight. I wish I'd known her. You have her strength, her heart, her stubborn determination. Eleanor smiled through tears. You know her through yourself. They visited Victoria's grave together now, once a month, always on the 12th, the day Victoria died. Eleanor placed white roses, and Amara placed her hand on the headstone. I'm here, Mom, she whispered every time. I'm okay. We're okay. Eleanor didn't cry anymore, not at the grave. She talked instead, telling Victoria about Amara's achievements, her plans, her life. As if Victoria was still listening. Maybe she was. The Victoria Whitmore Foundation launched with $200 million. Eleanor's announcement had been made 6 months ago. Now, the real operational focus was on foster children, education, scholarships, mental health services, and family reunification resources. Amara served on the board, using her experience and her pain to help others heal. At the first meeting, she presented data, statistics, and plans. Every year, 20,000 kids age out of foster care, with no family and no support. We're going to change that. The board approved every proposal. Tessa Rodriguez was the first scholarship recipient, getting a full ride to Columbia's nursing graduate program. She hugged Amara after the announcement. You did this. We did this. Amara corrected. We're not letting anyone else feel forgotten. System changes rippled outward. The Amara Bennett Act passed the New York State Legislature. It required DNA banking for all abandoned infants and established a comprehensive database for cross-referencing and family connection protocols. Roosevelt Medical Center restructured completely, implementing new protocols and multiple verifications for any infant death certificate, with independent reviews required. Detective Costa headed a new task force investigating hospital fraud and adoption corruption. They'd already identified 12 suspicious cases. Dr. Okafor published a book, Stolen Childhoods: How Medical Corruption Destroys Families, which became required reading in medical ethics programs nationwide. Change was happening because of Amara's story. The civil lawsuit settled. $45 million from Naomi's estate, Roosevelt Medical Center, and co-conspirators. Amara's portion was $30 million. She donated every penny to foster care reform, medical oversight programs, and legal aid for family reunification. I don't need guilt money, she told reporters. I need to make sure this never happens again. Eleanor watched the press conference, overwhelmed with pride. 1 year after the gala, Amara worked her first shift. Registered nurse, Roosevelt Medical Center, NICU. Eleanor wasn't thrilled about it. Too many painful memories lingered there. Too much trauma. But Amara was adamant. This is where Mom died, she said. Where I was stolen. But it's also where sick babies get saved every single day. I want to be part of that healing. She spends her days tending to premature infants, carefully monitoring their vital signs, adjusting IVs with precision, and speaking in soothing tones to the terrified parents. During her lunch break, Eleanor visits, bringing homemade sandwiches, only slightly burnt around the edges. They eat together in the hospital cafeteria, surrounded by the usual chaos of beeping machines and staff rushing to and fro. Feels normal in a way. Not perfect, certainly not without its share of pain, but undeniably real. Amara instinctively touches her necklace, now accompanied by a compass rose bracelet that Eleanor gave her, inscribed with both of their names. You know what's funny? Amara asks. What? Eleanor replies. I spent my whole life feeling completely lost. Amara says. Like I didn't belong anywhere at all. She looks directly at Eleanor, her eyes filled with emotion. Now I realize I was never actually lost. I was just stolen, and you never stopped looking for me. Eleanor's eyes well up with tears. I didn't even know I was looking, she admits. But my heart knew that something was missing, a piece of me that was gone. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment, feeling complete, finally whole. Voiceover. Amara Bennett was abandoned as an infant, branded as unwanted by society, and essentially told that she didn't matter. For 23 long years, she fought tooth and nail to survive in a world that had discarded her without a second thought. But a single necklace, her mother's final gift, became the thread that unraveled a complex conspiracy, restored a shattered family, and exposed deep-seated corruption that reached the highest levels. The villains are now safely behind bars, where they belong. The system, slowly but surely, is beginning to change for the better. Justice has finally prevailed. But the real victory, the truly meaningful moment, came when Eleanor finally heard someone call her grandma for the very first time. Amara finally understood that she was never unwanted. She was stolen, a victim of circumstance. These real-life stories teach us invaluable lessons. Can broken families truly heal and become whole again? Can justice ultimately defeat power, no matter how formidable it may seem? Can one person's unwavering courage truly change everything for the better? Amara's story resoundingly answers yes to all of these questions. But only if we refuse to passively accept injustice when we see it. Only if we are willing to fight tirelessly for the truth, even when it's buried deep beneath layers of lies and deceit. Only if we remember that every single abandoned child has a story worth uncovering, a life worth fighting for. The necklace served as a powerful symbol, but Amara herself is a miracle. Not simply because she was rescued and reunited with her family, but because she never, ever stopped searching for the truth, no matter how daunting the odds seemed. Have you ever paused to wonder what secrets your own family might be holding? What injustices might be hiding just beneath the surface, behind closed doors? In a world that often tells us to just move on, to forget the past and focus on the future, Amara reminds us that truth is always worth fighting for, no matter the cost, and that love, in its purest form, always finds its way home. If this incredible story touched your heart in any way, please share it with others. Leave a comment below about your own personal journey and experiences. And don't forget to subscribe to hear more deeply moving stories about real people overcoming seemingly impossible odds and finding hope in the darkest of times.